Good evening, everyone. Okay. Sorry, I feel like I'm getting one at the last second here. How's everybody doing? Good? The background? It's the same background that I always have. It's nothing different. Hi, Carrie. Uncle Jay. Pastor Ortiz. Hello, Yolanda. Hi, Elder Penny. Sorry, I literally just jumped on just now, so I'm kind of disheveled. Relax. I am relaxed. Hey, Mike. Oh, because I'm bouncing around a lot. I am bouncing around. It's because I literally just signed on just now, and usually, I am fidgeting. Usually, when I get home, I schedule everything and whatever, and I forgot to. So literally, like 5 minutes ago, I'm running to the computer to schedule everything. So I'm fidgety, but it's all good. I'm good. All right, now I'm comfortable. Okay. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. Early week. I am. I had a pretty good day today. I have to say, I can't complain. The past couple of weeks have been pretty good at work, and I think I told you guys last week. I did. I told you guys last week about how there was a project that I had, that I was like procrastinating with. I was just holding off, and I wasn't doing it because I didn't want to like take the time to think about what had to get done and whatever. Um, and then when I finally did it, I was able to think of something that was pretty easy to get this job done, but because I procrastinated, it was holding up a bunch of other stuff. So all those other things and other tasks that had to get completed are all done. So I should take a picture of my desk. It's so nice and clear now. So it's a good feeling. Like, even right now, thinking about it, having it in my mind, that it's all clear and like I'm like on top of everything, is such a good feeling to have. For me anyway, I like that feeling. You know. So you guys know the deal. Although I signed in late, so it feels like I'm starting earlier than usual. But we'll wait another minute or so, and then we'll get started. I'm doing something a little bit different today. Usually, I have the YouTube playing with the music videos and whatever. But this time, I just have a phone connected to the speakers and just play my own music. I felt like doing that this time. And the album I'm playing is probably one of my favorite albums. This is Bethel, and the album is Mighty Sound. It's like all spontaneous. Like they'll it's their songs, then they kind of go into like spontaneous worship. I love this album. All right, that's good. Closer. Oops. I think I never have it right the way I want it. You know, that's good though. That's good. This month has gone by fast, all right? It's already the end of April. It's crazy. I think that's all we say all the time, how fast everything is going. But it's really true. The fact that it's almost May already, I don't know. That's quick. That is quick. No? You don't agree? I think it's quick. Okay, are you guys ready to get started? Because I am. So, one, before I get into uh, the topic for this evening, I do. I continue, of course, want to speak about all the things that we have going on. You know, to me, it's such a blessing, um, the amount of times that we have available for us just to get together. And by now, you guys know you've heard me say the word fellowship probably 1,000 times by now this year, and the importance of our fellowship. But we know newly introduced is Fridays, which is the fourth Friday of the month that's spent with the founding pastor, Pastor Balin. And those that went on Friday to his house had such an amazing time. I've just heard such great stuff about you guys coming together and being able to just spend time with him, but also hear his wisdom, hear him be able to speak from his life and his experiences, and be able to give wisdom and revelation, and that's what will continue. Um, there's like I said, there's so many different opportunities that we have to get together, and it's removing from our minds the idea that okay, we have to go to church on Sundays and that's our duty. That's what we have to do is we go to church on Sundays. It's so much more than that. It's not just about going to church and being in the four walls. There's an importance about us coming together. There's an importance about our fellowship. We go stronger. We encourage each other. We're able to glean from each other. We're able to hear wisdom and revelation from our leadership. It's such an important thing. And I just encourage every single one of us to understand the importance of our fellowship and how integral it is for us to join with each other. You know, just even speaking about Monday, Monday was our prayer fellowship. You know, for those who attend, know what it is, and just a reminder to everybody: if you have in your mind that our prayer time on Monday nights, we're going to come together at 7 o'clock. I'm going to pray for an hour. We're going to leave. We're so past that. Let me tell you, we had such an awesome time last night. You know, speaking about a specific topic and challenging each other in the word, and people were speaking out their lives and experiences, and it was awesome. We would speak, we would get in the word, we'd question things, and this is what it's about. This is how we encourage each other. This is how we grow, and this is what's taking place. And I just encourage you every opportunity that we have to come together, every opportunity, whether it's at this person's house or whether it's at church, whatever it may be, every opportunity that's had, I encourage you to participate and get out of your mind this idea that we go to church on Sundays and that's it. This isn't about checking off a box and saying I made it to church this Sunday. This is about our lives. This is about our growth. This is about making it a lifestyle. And these are the opportunities that we have with each other to be able to do that. Okay? So, enough about that. I do want to say one thing before I really get into the main topic that I wanted to speak to us about this evening. I've gotten so much feedback, positive feedback, about the topic last week, and those that remember or that saw it, the topic that we spoke about last week was procrastination, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from it. And I think it's because a lot of us can find ourselves in that place. And I mentioned it last week. At one point or another, every single one of us has procrastinated. But it's about us figuring out if our procrastination has become a lifestyle. Is it something that we're continuing to doing and continuing to do? And we spoke about the negative impact that can have in our lives. And there were two things that I want to discuss. One thing that I wanted to bring up last week, and I just didn't have time. And another thing that Mike Waldner had actually sent me, in reference to, in just a quote that he had sent in reference to procrastination, and that was the phrase productive procrastination. Productive procrastination. And that may sound like an oxymoron, but what that actually is basically filling up your time with maybe things that aren't pressing or things that aren't important. Filling up your time with these menial tasks so that you can avoid doing what's necessary and what has to get done. Uh, for example, what's a good example? Um, I've got to clean my apartment, and that's something that I have to do, and I know that I have to do it and it has to get done. But instead of getting it done, I'll say, yeah, I have to clean my apartment, but first I have to check my email or I have to do whatever it is. And I fill up my time doing things that I know is not really the priority. It's not really the task that must be completed. So I'm seemingly being productive because my time is being used up doing something, but it isn't being used up doing the thing that's integral, that's important, that's necessary, that has to get completed. So I thought that was a great thing, and it's important for us to take a look at our lives and can we be doing that? Can we be putting other things that are really aren't important, that maybe are always at the bottom of the to-do list? Can we be putting those things and giving them unneeded priority and utilizing our time and energy doing those things instead of accomplishing the tasks that we're supposed to accomplish? I thought that was awesome. Again, that was productive procrastination. And something else that I wanted to mention, and if you remember last week when I was speaking about procrastinating, I'd also spoke about after that it is important for us to take a time out every now and then, to be very much aware of ourselves and time that we need to rest and be aware if we're being overwhelmed by things. It's important to do that as well, and doing those things does not mean that we're procrastinating or putting things off. That means that we're taking a time out and checking into our mental health and making sure that we're getting the rest that we need. Because if we're not doing all of those things, forgive our procrastination. We're not gonna be able to complete the tasks that we need to complete because it's not appropriately taking care of ourselves. And what I wanted to mention when it comes to that is sometimes we can, because we're not properly taking care of ourselves and because we're not paying attention to our bodies and to our mind, we can end up procrastinating, if this makes sense, but not intentionally. We're just so overwhelmed with life that all of these things that we have to do, we're just unable to do them. Our mind is unable to really be able to complete these things because we're not appropriately taking care of ourselves. And we each have gotten to places in our lives, and maybe we were there right now, where it's just overwhelming. There's just this unbelievable amount of things that we have to accomplish. And in those cases, I would recommend writing things down. Put together a list, take a couple of minutes. Put together a list of things that you have to do. Put them into appropriate order. Be mindful of yourself, be mindful of your time, be mindful of resting, be mindful of not putting so much on your plate to the point of which you are overwhelmed. And as you complete these tasks, you check them off and give yourself a break in moments. Again, We know the difference between completely procrastinating and kicking the can down the road, so to speak, and understanding that we need to take a break for ourselves when we're getting to a point where we're overwhelmed. So it's important to take a time out. Just important things uh, for us to be mindful of. Again, none of us want to procrastinate, but it's important for us to be mindful of our mental health and be mindful of our bodies and all those things as well. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But just a few things that I wanted to mention from last week that I didn't get a chance to mention because of our time. So I'll jump to what I wanted to speak to us this evening about, and what I want to talk to us about this evening is about being self aware. About being self aware. So, and I'll ask you a few questions in reference to that. One, do you know yourself? Do you know yourself truly? Are you honest with yourself? And I'll read this. And this is just something that I wrote just in a couple of things that I found on defining what self-aware is. And just this is just a group of things that I kind of put together. Being self-aware is being mindful of who you are, how you treat yourself and others, how you deal with challenges, conflict, and how you interact with your community. Now, community just means those who are around you, and those that and your community is a list of things. That's family, that's friends, that's colleagues, that's your ministry, people that you congregate with or commune with. Whether it's a daily basis, weekly, whatever. Those that are in your circle, so to speak. Are you aware of how you are when it comes, who you are and how you are when it comes to all those different things? I think it's very important, especially us as believers, to be very much self aware. This has everything to do with character. This has everything to do with how we present ourselves. At times, I think, at times, not all the time, but at times, we can perhaps think a little too highly of ourselves. And it's interesting because I feel we can concentrate when it comes to how we're presenting ourselves. We can very much take the position of, well, don't be so down on yourself, and don't do this. You're better than that, and you're all those things. And 100%, there's a place for that. And there are times that we can be a little bit too hard on ourselves, and we can be our biggest critic. But just for this time that we're having together this evening, I want to talk about the opposite. I want to talk about how sometimes we can think a little bit too highly of ourselves, and we can at times perhaps ignore some of the flaws that we have. Perhaps we can ignore some of the weaknesses, and sometimes we can ignore our behavior amongst other people. So I think it's important to consider those things. And I want to tell you about something. I feel like I might have mentioned this. Maybe I mentioned it briefly. I'm not sure. But I want to speak specifically at my job. Uh, um, Me and the COO for months now, maybe 6 months now, I've been having extensive conversations about the future of our company and scheduling and flexibility and considering the employees and all that stuff. Great conversations that we're having. But we've found ourselves considering that before implementing or making any changes that we want to look at as far as the future of our company, we have to consider each of us as individuals and consider, is everybody that's staffed at our company, are they trustworthy? Are they what we're deeming the rare responsible person? And in doing that, for us to take a time out and everyone in the company to kind of rate themselves and consider themselves and their colleagues. And again, I think I might have mentioned this. We completed a survey. We had a survey that went out to everyone in the company, and we are being rated on 5 or 6 different areas that have to do with character. And your responsibility is to rate yourself, and then you rate three or four of your colleagues. So this has been taking place, and we got out, well, not everybody, but I got my survey back on Friday. And me personally, I wasn't rated by three or four people. I was actually rated by everyone in the company, unbeknownst to them, and no one knew that. But just to kind of have a really clean case study, and for other reasons, the CEO decided, you know what, I'm going to have you rated by everyone in the company. So it's interesting because in doing so, I wasn't expecting to be alarmed by anything. I said, oh, it's cool, whatever. Everybody will rate me, and that's fine. I was much more anticipating uh, us doing this as a whole and what this meant for us as a company and how we can grow and whatever. But I really wasn't considering the fact that I would be able to see how everybody in the company rated me. And all this is done anonymously, by the way. So when you're rating someone, you're not putting your name. Nobody knows what you're scoring everybody. So when I get my survey back, all I can see is all the different scores, but I can't see, of course, who did them. So I get it back, and again, I wasn't expecting to be alarmed by anything. I get the scores back, and everything's coming back good, and whatever, and yada yada yada. And my eyes settled on two things. I'm sorry. The scores are 1 through 5 in every single one of these different character traits, 5 or 6 different things, and um, I was rated by 15 people or so, and all the numbers of 4 and 5, 4 and 5, 4 and 5. 5 is like top of class, and 4 is above average. So I'm seeing all that, and two of the scores in an area ended up being quite alarming to me, and I received, again, it's a score of 1 through 5. I received a score of 2 by two different colleagues. Again, I don't know who they are, in one specific area. Guess what the area was? Self aware. Now, shocking to me. And I'll premise it with this. um, we also had to score ourselves as well. And the area that I gave myself the lowest score on was self growth. Again, this is just specific to the workplace. Was self growth because although I feel like I do a good job at what I do, if I'm looking at the past 2 years, let's say, I can't say that there's been tremendous growth. I've done my job, I've done it very well, but as far as taking us to the next level, as far as my team, I can't say that I've done that. And yeah, I could talk about, oh, it's because I don't have time to really look at training and all that stuff, sure. But whatever. That was the area that I said this is an area that I need improvement on. I certainly wasn't looking at self-awareness. Now I know when you think about these type of scores and things, you can think, well, you're supposed to drop the lowest score and you're supposed to drop the highest score. So people gave me a 2 out of 15. What's interesting is the other 13 people gave me predominantly fives, and of course the rest were fours. Now I can look at that and say to myself, well, those two people must be off. Whatever. They must be, tough critics. They must be whatever. And I can completely ignore it and say, you know what, I'm good because 80%, 85% of the people gave me more than above average scores. Do you think that's what I did? Mm-mm. Absolutely not. Because my responsibility, being self aware, is to take a moment and say, hmm, okay, sure, maybe I might have gotten predominantly good scores, but there were two people in the same area who do not agree. I have a responsibility to look at that and say to myself, in some way, shape, or form, I have either rubbed those people the wrong way, haven't shown them my real self, Maybe these are people that are very distant from me that I don't work with daily, and their perception of me is different because they don't really know who I am. Whatever it may be, I have a responsibility. I must take action. Now, I can't take action with those specific people because I don't know who they are, but I can take a look at myself and say, hey, hmm, maybe there's some things that need to be adjusted here. So I say all that for us now to take a look at ourselves and our character and look at us spiritually. Of course, we understand that who we are, being self aware, is our character, and what we represent is supposed to be the Lord. That we're filled with His Spirit and we're supposed to show forth the fruits of the Spirit. Now, these are all things that we know, but it doesn't mean that these are things that 100% exude from us all the time. We have a responsibility to be aware of ourselves. How do we handle relationships? I asked a few questions here, and I want you to answer these questions about yourself. This is all about being self aware. Do you have an anger issue? Do you enjoy hearing gossip and talking about others? How do you handle conflict? Are you a jealous person? Can you be self-centered? Are you a self-centered person? You just always thinking about yourself? Are you a super critical person? Looking at situations and looking at people, do you find yourself always criticizing instead of encouraging, instead of building up? It's important. This is all about being self aware. I have mentioned this before and I will continue to mention it. And when it comes to this type of topic, sometimes we can find ourselves saying, well, that's just how I am, or saying this is because of how I was raised, or making oh, what's the word? What's the word? Making, not suggestions, making, I can't think of the word. When you, oh man, I'm having like a, excuses. Jeez, I couldn't think of the word. Making excuses for yourself, um, for your behavior and who you are. And what's true is you may be justified in some of the things that you're saying, but you are still choosing to still be that way. You are still choosing to not bring those things to the Lord in prayer. You are still choosing not to actively work on changing those areas of your life. If you are an angry and bitter person, if to you feel to get your point across, you have to raise your voice and be irritable, there's an issue there. And someone who is self-aware acknowledges that, but you don't just acknowledge it and just acknowledge it and say that's how I am. You acknowledge it and recognize this is an area that has to change, and I'm going to bring this to the Lord in prayer. If you're the kind of person that enjoys hearing gossip and what's happened to that one and what's happened to this one, and it's maybe deep down makes you feel a little better about yourself, being self-aware acknowledges there's an issue there. This is something that I have to bring to God in prayer. This is not the way that I should be. I wrote something else down too. It's important for us to listen to those in our lives that love us and have proven their loyalty. What do I mean by that? I'm going to tell you. You see, we can have our own idea of who we are and how we portray ourselves and how we present ourselves. I'm going to use the word that I used previously, to our community. And remember, our community, just all those that are around you, the people that you are in relation with in some way, shape, or form. We can have our own understanding of who we are. Remember what I said in the beginning of this survey? I wasn't expecting to be surprised. And for the most part, I wasn't. But two people in one specific area being self aware surprised me. It's important for me now to take action. I can't just say, well, there, whatever, and I'm just going to completely dismiss that. So now, how much more? the people that are in our lives that love us, and I wrote down that have proven their loyalty. So these are people that have stuck by us through thick and thin. They've seen the best of us and they've seen the worst of us. It's important for us to listen to what those people have to say about us. It may not be easy to hear, but sometimes necessary because your idea of who you are may be completely warped. And yeah, a lot of times we can be, like I said at the beginning, we can be our biggest critic, and we may not think highly of ourselves. But let me tell you something. In some cases, it could be a bit flip flopped. We're thinking more highly of ourselves in certain areas that we really shouldn't. And if we want to grow and we want to be self aware, it's important for us to pick the people that we know that love us and that support us and have been loyal to us and ask them some really honest questions and be prepared for their answers. And when I say be prepared for them, I mean don't take offense. If it's not the answer that we wanted to hear, listen to it, acknowledge it, and take action. What do I mean? Certain questions like, am I a good husband? How am I as a wife? Our children. What kind of parent am I? Am I a good parent? Have I been a good mother? Have I been a good father? If you are in a ministry, you're leading a ministry, ask the people that you're leading, what kind of leader am I? Am I everything that you need me to be? What are some areas that I need to work on? This is someone who is self-aware and 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 to the point of which of acknowledging that our idea of ourselves can be flawed and it's not perfect. And we have a responsibility to those that are amongst our community to ever be improving and to be growing. We have a responsibility to do so. And we have a responsibility first and foremost to the Lord, and it's to bear forth the fruits of the spirit. And I can see the time, and I know it's 8:03. But I just want to read one thing, and then I'll leave you guys alone for tonight. And let's read John chapter 3 and verse 30. Should I was rattling off, I didn't realize how late it was, but we're almost done. John 3 and verse 30. And I'm reading from the Amplified. It says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And we've heard this scripture before and we know it, but just to kind of give an understanding of what was taking place and why this was being said by John the Baptist, it was being said because Jesus had been baptizing. And prior to this moment, we know John the Baptist, he was the one who would baptize and he was very much respected, and people would come from all over to have John baptize him. John knew who he was, and he had spoken about the Messiah. He had spoken about Jesus coming, and there's one that's come that's greater than I. He acknowledged that this was going to take place, and people were coming up to him and they were talking about Jesus and saying, "Well, there's another that's baptizing," and that's when John responds is saying, "He must increase," and the Amplified says, "in prominence, but I must decrease." And prominence is talking about in his presence, his who he is, and I must decrease. It would be what's a good example? Um I can't think of a great example, but it's like saying, yeah, there's one that's greater than me that's coming, and he needs to take his rightful place. And now, because he needs to take up his prominence, and I need to decrease. I need to be less because that's Jesus. That's the Savior. That's the Messiah. I'm nobody. Yeah, I may have taken this position up until this point, but the one that was prophesied that would come, he now needs to take his place. John understood who he was, and that's what's important for us being self aware. See, we might have had a character in this world in a persona that we've had. And yeah, we may justify some of the behaviors that we've had, and because of this, and because I was raised this way, and because this has taken place, that has shaped who I am today. But once we accepted the Lord as Savior and we became born again, the Holy Spirit, presence of God that dwells on the inside of us, that's what needs to take prominence. That's what needs to be exalted. So that means no longer Ivan should be living, no longer Ivan should be presented, but he that lives on the inside of me, that's what needs to take prominence. That's what needs to be glorified. And that's how we should be in every single relationship that we are, wherever we are. That's our family, our friends, our colleagues, our neighbors, those that we witness to, every single person. They should see Jesus on the inside of us. They shouldn't see anger. They shouldn't see bitterness. They shouldn't see a gossip. They shouldn't see any of these other things. And if those things are represented, we have a responsibility to go to God and pray about them and actively be working for change. Okay? I hope this makes sense. And I hope that you're grasping the importance of us being self-aware and having those real, I challenge you guys, have some real conversations with loved ones that you trust, ones that you feel have been loyal, and you trust what they have to say, and be prepared to hear their answers. And again, meaning when I say be prepared to hear their answers, that means don't take offense. That means take action. I hear what you have to say. Some areas that I have to grow in. Okay? And if somebody comes to you with those questions, be honest with them, love them, don't cut them, love them, encourage them, but be honest because it's important for their growth. Okay? I love you guys. Hope you have a great, great night, and we'll see you on Thursday.